What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. Getting back to my top 10 NBA role players of all time. This has been a very long-winded adventure. I did my bottom 5 and just kind of fell off with the rest of the list. But I'm back, baby. I'm back. So just to give you an idea what the bottom 5 looked like, at number 10 I had Steve Kerr, number 9 Bruce Bowen, number 8 Lamar Odom, number 7 Danny Ainge, number 6 Tony Kukoc, and number 5, Ginobili! Yes, Manu Ginobili. A player who is widely considered, is definitely considered one of the greatest role players to ever play the game of basketball. One of the greatest 6 men to ever play the game of basketball. And to some, the greatest 6 man ever to play the game of basketball. And I probably wouldn't have much argument for that because Manu Ginobili was a caliber of player that could have been a starter on almost any team that did not have a prolific shooting guard on like a Kobe Bryant level, a Vince Carter level. Vince was shooting guard / small forward. McGrady shooting guard / small forward. But you get what I'm saying. Anybody that didn't have a super prolific shooting guard, Manu Ginobili probably would have been your starting shooting guard on your team. And honestly, he was good enough to be the starting shooting guard on the San Antonio Spurs. But given Greg Popovich's system and how he liked to do things, he thought it was better off to have that spark coming off the bench the majority of the time. All right, so let's just get into Manu Ginobili's basics. If you don't know, Manu Ginobili is from Argentina. He came into the NBA at about age 25. He was playing in Europe before then for his country. Manu Ginobili was 6'6", about 205 pounds. I believe the San Antonio Spurs got the actual draft rights to Manu Ginobili in 1999, second round with the 57th overall pick, but did not join the team until the year 2002. All right. Manu Ginobili, a very decorated NBA player. Manu Ginobili is a 4-time NBA champion. 2-time NBA All-Star, primarily off the bench. That should tell you everything you need to know. 2-time All-NBA third team. NBA Sixth Man of the Year. I don't know how he didn't get more of those. NBA All-Rookie second team. Had his jersey retired by the San Antonio Spurs as well. And he has a long list of European accomplishments as well. On his career, Manu Ginobili has over 14,000 points for a 13.3 point per game average. Over 3,000, damn near 3,700 rebounds for 3.5 rebounds per game. Just over 4,000 assists for 3.8 assists per game. Manu Ginobili was an amazing pickup for Greg Popovich and the San Antonio Spurs. Like I said, this guy could have been a starting shooting guard on most other teams, but he was coming off the bench and bringing a very unique skill set to the San Antonio Spurs. His presence was more or less immediately felt when he was a rookie. They won a championship in his rookie year, 2002-2003 season. That was the year, and I hated Ginobili. That's when I found out about Ginobili. I'm a lifelong Laker fan, baby. We were trying to four-peat that year. And Manu Ginobili and them boys was giving us trouble. Absolutely, he was something else to deal with, especially in the playoff time. Manu Ginobili is one of those guys that excelled his level of play come playoff time. Granted, Greg Popovich would increase his minutes come playoff time for obvious reasons, but he answered the call, and he played better in the playoffs. You had to deal with Manu Ginobili. He had an amazing skill set and was really bringing that new flavor, not necessarily new, but really was one of those players that put European style of basketball on the map. Manu Ginobili wowed audiences and would make exceptional passes, great bounce passes, great no-look passes, Very smooth, could be a little bit erratic at times, and that would drive Greg Popovich crazy at times. But generally speaking, he was on the money and could put the ball where it needed to be on the money. While Manu Ginobili did not create the Euro step, there were players in the league using the Euro step before Manu. Manu definitely popularized the Euro step. No question about it. He would use it with regularity and use it effectively. And now, look at it now. More European players in the league now than it was back then. But now, players, all players, not just Europeans, all players, they can't even get to the basket without Euro stepping these days. Gone are the hop step. Gone are the bunny hop. Gone are the just line drives, slight maneuver, layup. Now it's a Euro step with everything. So much so that now some players use it to their detriment where they don't need a Euro step and they end up Euro stepping into an offensive foul. Like, you didn't even need a Euro step there. But the Euro step is effective. And Manu Ginobili is a big reason why a lot of players do it now in today's league. Manu Ginobili could score from anywhere on the court. Manu Ginobili could catch and shoot effectively. See, there's some players that could score great in isolation, but they're not very good in catch and shoot situations. Manu Ginobili is one of those guys that could score in catch and shoot off the ball, and he could score in isolation with the ball in his hand. Manu was special. He absolutely was. He was a threat from three-point land as well. All areas of the floor, Manu could score. Crafty with both hands, though I think he was predominantly a lefty, if I'm not mistaken, but was very skilled with his left and his right hand. Had great dribbling skills, behind the back, through the legs, wrap around, you name it. He could break multiple players down to get to the basket or just to free himself up for a shot. In an alternate universe somewhere out there, Manu Ginobili, probably goes down as a top 8, top 10 shooting guard of all time. If he was a starter and giving the responsibilities of a starter, Manu was one of those guys that was good enough to carry a team at least into the playoffs, maybe win a round or two. He was that special. He was. But he bought into the Greg Popovich system. He bought into what Greg Popovich needed him to do. Took on a very well-defined role, and he excelled in it. But he was one of those guys that was capable of so much more. And when the Spurs needed him to be so much more, needed to pop that bottle cap off and explode with your potential, Manu Ginobili could deliver that. I remember it was a season. I think it might have been the 07-08 season. I think it was the 07-08 season. I don't know if Tim Duncan and Tony Parker were out, but Manu just started cooking for like a week or two. Like averaging somewhere between 25, 30 points per game, somewhere between 5 to 7 assists, 5 to 7 rebounds. He was just cooking. And I think it was because the Spurs might have been shorthanded with the other starters, but they had put the ball in Manu Ginobili's hand to lead them and to shoulder the load, and he was doing it. And I remember people were saying, damn, is this guy on the level of Kobe Bryant? They started saying things like that. And I was like, well, pump the brakes. No, he's fantastic, but pump the brakes. He's not quite that. But yeah, he's a special player. But for them to even bring his name up with a player like Kobe Bryant should tell you what this guy was capable of. He never averaged 20 points per game for a single season, but he did have that one season, and I think it was the same season I'm talking about, where he did average 19.5 points per game, damn near 5 rebounds, damn near 5 assists. Greg Popovich is one of those guys that would tinker with his rotations a lot, so there definitely were moments and there were games where Manu Ginobili would be inserted into that starting lineup, but primarily from the point he came in and from the point he left, definitely towards his last couple years, like his last, 4-ish years, I think he came off the bench 100% of the time, but he was well off his prime at that point, so it made more sense. But overall, on his career, Manu Ginobili only started 349 games out of 1,057 games. So he was primarily a bench player. Manu had a handful of seasons where he got hit with the injury bug, and he only played about half the season or so. But he wasn't one of those players where injuries defined his career. But he did have some moments where, you know, he didn't get to play as many games as he should have because of injuries. But he immediately impacted that San Antonio Spurs team. And with him, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan, they were a force to be reckoned with as a trifecta with more tried and true, and I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, brainwashed role players in the Greg Popovich system. I don't know if you've ever seen the little short episodes called Game of Zones, which is a spinoff on Game of Thrones. But if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it, especially if you're Game of Thrones fans. You'll love it. And it's kind of interesting. I never watched Game of Thrones, so I had to have people explain some things to me. And even with them explaining it to me and never watching Game of Thrones, I did think it was quite funny. Especially how they portrayed Greg Popovich and the players in the Greg Popovich system. They're basically like brainwashed zombies. It's quite funny. Yeah, but, you know, Manu's first 5 years as a San Antonio Spur, he won a championship 3 times. And he was a major reason. Maybe they don't win 1 or 2 of those championships without his level of play coming off the bench for extended minutes in the playoffs. Like dude was a monster. And he made everything better for Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan, as they did for him too. Right? It's how it all works. When you have 3 players of that caliber, they're supposed to make it easier for each other. Though, granted, nothing is easy, but you get what I'm saying. I believe in the 2010-2011 season, if I'm not mistaken, Manu Ginobili actually was finished top 10 in top 10 in MVP voting. I'm pretty sure he was somewhere in the bottom 5, but I do remember him making it on that top 10 list, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Considering that this guy was largely a role player. Now, that season, that 2010-2011 season, Manu Ginobili started every game with the exception of 1. He started 79. Oh, no. He played 80 games. He played 80 games that season, started 79 of them. So he's primarily a starter that season. But there was only 2 seasons that he played, including this one, where he was primarily a starter. Other than that, he was primarily a bench player. Not many players or not many teams in the history of the league can honestly say that they have a player like Manu Ginobili coming off the bench. A guy that could score with the best of them any given night. A guy that could play make with the best of them any given night. A guy that could defend with the best of them at his position any given night. He was capable. Now, Manu Ginobili was known as a notorious flopper. He's also known as one of the greatest floppers in the history of the league. Right there along with his boy Vlade Divac. Right there along with Anderson Varejao. Those are some of the great floppers during that time. He could sell calls. If he was doing a lot of flopping today, would he be getting hefty fines on a game-to-game basis and technical fouls for his team? Absolutely. But yeah, Manu Ginobili was a flopper, and he sold it. He sold it a lot. He did. Manu was a problem, man. Manu was a beast. I don't think we've had a better player from Argentina ever in our league, at least not that one I can think of. Manu Ginobili has a handful of, callback games, marquee games, especially playoff games. He was tried and true. He usually delivered when the team needed him the most. And you could definitely count on Manu Ginobili when you needed him. He was a quality player. He was a stud. He's an all-time great role player. Honestly, all-time great player, period. And all-time great foreign player in the NBA. And for his country, he's a legend. All right? That's all I got to say about it. Manu Ginobili, number 5 on my greatest role players of all time. Let me know what you think about it. Where would you put Manu Ginobili on your top 10 role players of all time? Feel free to add any context regarding Manu. I appreciate you for stepping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and I'll catch you on the next one. We out, baby.
Ginobili! By a special guest. That's it, Ginobili!